Okay, I'll call this council public hearing to order. Please stand for the pledge.
Corey, you want to lead us tonight, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Carter. Walter. Howe. Barstow.
Here.
Hayes. Here. Hicken.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum present, just barely. Purpose of this public hearing tonight is to consider the following. An amendment to the Pataskala Codified Ordinances to amend Chapter 1293. What do you got for me, Scott?
Thank you, sir. As you mentioned, this is a code amendment request. This would be adding 1293 to the code. What this addresses is wireless telecommunication facilities, aka cell towers. So the current regulations, there's not much. Essentially, it says if it's over 50 feet, it must be located in a manufacturing or industrial district. So essentially, plain manufacturing or M1. And then there's a list, it's conditionally permitted in commercial and industrial districts. The existing section of the code is not specific to cell towers, so that's pretty much all we have. The proposed regulations would be designed to specifically address cell towers, and through this process, we had input with the development committee in crafting these regulations. So I'll go through this quickly and just kind of touch on, here's the sections and what they would address. There's the purpose section that directs the location of cell towers within the city. It promotes compatibility, encourages co-location, which means you have multiple antennas on the same tower, just so every antenna doesn't get a separate tower. Applicability, this would apply to all tower support structures and wireless telecommunication facilities in the city, non-conforming towers and support structures, and expansion, reconstruction, or modification of existing cell towers. It has a definition section, permitted. It has cell towers being conditionally permitted in commercial and industrial districts. Permits will be required for new cell towers, which require conditional use. An expansion of cell towers and facilities would require an conditional use. And then a zoning permit would be for modification, expansion, or new construction. So there's conditional use review. So this would go before the Board of Zoning Appeals, and they would determine if a cell tower is appropriate in the designated location provided by the applicant. They will be reviewing these conditional use requirements are specific to cell towers. We have a list of conditional use criteria that the applicant must meet, and that's for any conditional use. Then there's the added layer of conditional use requirements specific to cell towers. So this looks at the ability to co-locate, potential for adverse impacts, etc. It also gives the BZA the ability to add conditions to approval and designates that the decision of the board will be sent to the applicant. Zoning permit, that's basically standard zoning permit fare, everything needs to be in there, site plan, etc. And then we have specific general requirements as well. Color of the tower, the height of the tower, screening, lighting, signage are all addressed in here. Again, there's more general requirements, setbacks, requirement that the towers and support structures be certified by an engineer. Again, we focus on co-location with this. Abandonment, there's certain provisions that if the cell tower is abandoned, it's required to be removed, or there's provisions that the city can have it removed. And then there's a section that addresses non-conforming towers and facilities. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know I breezed through that, but instead of regurgitating that everything in there, I thought it'd be easier just, if there are questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Mr. Barstow.
Thank you. Mr. Fulton, I have two questions. So the first question is, this is a complete rewrite of this code. It's a
Essentially, it's a complete rewrite. There was only, as I mentioned, those few specific questions, so it's essentially, while it's amending those, it's a first write, a
Okay.
first draft.
The second question I have is about the abandonment portion. So I was reading through this, and it looks like the abandonment only comes in if the cell tower is erected and then used and then abandoned. It specifically exempts if the cell tower is started and then there's a 180-day, nothing happens.
So if the tower to be undertaken.
What if the company starts to build the tower and then they go bankrupt and they abandon the tower, and this doesn't allow us to implement the abandonment procedures because the tower's never been used, the way it's written.
That is correct. It's my understanding that when cell towers are being constructed, that the carrier, Verizon, whomever has commissioned this person to construct the tower. So it's not like a speculative endeavor where they'll build a tower and hope someone comes. From my understanding, it would be Verizon tells cell tower company, build one here for us, and then we put our antenna on it. But you're correct, with the abandonment, if one is undertaken and not completed, we don't have anything in the abandonment section to address that.
Well, would it be possible, just as a suggestion, to remove that language so that if a tower, like I say, Verizon commissions a company to build the tower, and then either the company that's commissioned or Verizon goes bankrupt or something, and they never actually put the tower into use. I don't know, we can just look at it.
I can add that, and we'll bring back something for the next council meeting. With that though, because it's contrary to what the recommendation was from planning commission, if this should be approved, it would need to be a supermajority.
Okay. All right.
But I'll be happy to add that.
Okay. Just curious, thanks.
Sure. Having been on the development committee when we were discussing all this, I really appreciate the work you did.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else for Scott? Okay, any citizens' comments regarding this particular ordinance? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Barstow,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Hicken. Discussion? And roll.
Barstow,
Yes.
Hayes. Yes. Hicken,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
See you in 6 months.
Next meeting in 6 minutes.
Good to see you, man.